This is Fuzzee Tutorials, and I'm Fuzzee D. Today we're going to be doing a little more in-depth review and comparison of the FiFine microphone now that I've had it for a little bit, and I've done a fair bit of recording with it. Let's get started. So I'm recording through OBS, and I've got both microphones set up, and they've got some noise filtration attached to them, but that's it. So I'm going to give you several examples through here comparing them. Now this first example, I'm going to switch back and forth between them. I'm recording them both at the same time, so I don't need to repeat what I'm saying. I'll just switch back and forth as you're listening. I recommend you put on a set of headphones unless you've got a really good set of desktop speakers. Headphones will probably help you hear the differences a little better. This first section of audio isn't going to have any changes made within my audio processing section of DaVinci Resolve. So all you're going to hear is how they sound coming straight out of the microphone with just some noise suppression, and that's it. Well, how much of a difference are you noticing between the two microphones without any changes whatsoever? Now, what I've really noticed on these microphones is once I apply a little EQ, which is something you're almost always going to do in post-production. If you're streaming, that's a different story. And then you can do some adjustments within OBS to do some equalization ahead of time, or live, I should say. But that'll be a tutorial for another day. So by doing some EQ, you can do a lot of fine tuning on his microphones, but you can only take it so far. The next section that we're going to listen to is I'm going to switch back and forth between microphones with my best EQ settings that I've set up on these. Now I'm not going to show you how to fine tune these EQ settings. I've got another video already on the channel that'll show you how to do that. So that'll be linked up here. So I'm going to switch back and forth between the two microphones with the different EQ settings and see what you think of the difference on that. So I'm just going to ramble on here for a couple of moments so you can hear the difference between the two microphones as we switch back and forth. And take note of the differences in the midtones and the detail that are being picked up from my mouth, for instance. On one microphone you might hear more of the mouth sounds and the lips and the tongue, the little nuances that you won't pick up on a cheaper microphone. Did you notice the same thing that I did? I've noticed since I've been using this new microphone for a while that the detail that is picked up in the midtones and the higher end is incredible, and there's a much cleaner bass response. I don't have to tune out near as much of the bass on the EQ. Now this is one of the things that I really like about this new microphone, and how it picks up the tiniest nuances. It'll pick up little tiny noises from my lips and my tongue, which just make the audio sound more live and more real. Too many of the cheaper microphones just miss all that stuff, and you don't know you're missing it until you have a microphone that can actually pick it up. So I always thought I had pretty decent audio, and I mean, it was okay. I heavily EQ'd it with the lapel mic, and it wasn't too bad, especially for a cheap $25 microphone, and that's Canadian. But with this new mic, I'm hearing stuff that I have just never heard on any of my recordings before, and frankly I find it pretty amazing. And what I find most amazing with this microphone is how inexpensive it was. Now I did a lot of research over the last couple of years, and this particular microphone, which is the FiFine K688, it just came out pretty recently, and it's got some really nice features to it. It's got a capacitive mute button. So you can't see it on camera because it's on the underside, but it glows green when it's working. And if you just touch it, it'll mute the microphone. And you don't get any sound transmitted through the mic when you're muting or unmuting it. And on the back of the microphone, I'll pop a picture up so you can take a look. So on the back of the microphone, you've got a headphone jack, and you've got a separate line or level control for that microphone jack. It's a nice little dial, and that comes in live. There's no delay between what you're actually picking up with the microphone and what's being transmitted into your headphones. And then you've got a USB connection, which is what I'm using now. And then you can also run XLR if you've got an audio interface. As good as the quality is in USB, it'll be even better in XLR. So later on down the road, when you can afford to get an audio interface and some XLR cables, and then you can plug it in that way. Now, I haven't, of course, done any testing with that because I don't have an audio interface. I'm told that it works pretty well without any extras. But if you want a little better control and a little higher audio levels, you might need to get a cloud lifter or a FET head to go in between the microphone and your audio interface. Or it also depends on the interface. Some audio interfaces will add that extra 40 dB to compensate for that. So it just kind of depends on your interface. What do you think of the difference between these two microphones? Leave a comment down in the description and let me know what you think. I know I said earlier at the beginning I wasn't going to show you how to actually edit the multi-track stuff, but I changed my mind. I thought, this isn't really going to be complete if I don't show you how to actually work with it, at least for the basics. So we've got a new project set up. So I'm going to grab the footage that we took already, that we just finished recording, and we're going to bring that in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to generate proxy media. I'll bring you back when that part is done. Our proxy media is generated. So now I'm going to pull our first recording out from OBS. Now you'll notice that we've got 3 audio tracks here. I'm just going to do a little adjustment here, so I'm going to blow this up a bit. So this is our raw footage that I've finished doing my tweaking so that it looks more like normal 1080p. I've got an ultra wide, but most people aren't set up to view it as ultra wide, so I just always produce these in 1080p, actually 1440p. So you'll see we've got our 3 different tracks here. Now we should have had some music coming through on our desktop, and I'm not sure if it did or not, so I'm just going to mute these other tracks real quick. Sometimes it doesn't always show up if it's recorded at a really low level. So we're just going to play it real quick. This is Fuzzee Tutorials, and I'm Fuzzee D. Today, so I'll mute one track and then the other. So what you just heard there was the lapel mic. Now that I've had it for a little bit. And that was the FiFine. I've already gone ahead and done the comparison part, which you'll already have viewed. So now we're just kind of replaying some of that stuff, but in no particular order. It's not matching what I'm saying on the screen or anything. I'm just kind of showing you the basics of how we're dealing with this multi-track stuff. So from this point, it's pretty straightforward. If I want to do some individual processing of this, I can actually go into Fairlight, and we'll just expand things a little bit. So I'm just using the shift key as I scroll my mouse wheel to expand that. And then shift Z will zoom out to the whole thing. And you'll notice we've got these different sliders here, these vertical sliders. If you're not seeing these here, just go up here to the right and click on Mixer. So now we can actually adjust all of these tracks separately. What I'm going to do is just mute the lapel mic here. I'll just mute that whole track. And actually, let me go back to the edit page here real quick. Since our desktop track has nothing on it, it for some reason didn't record, So if I hold the Alt key down when I click it, it separates it out from the rest. Then I can just hit the backspace key and remove it. And then I can do the same thing here. I can just hold the Alt key down, click that, and then I can move it up to my second dialogue track. Now what you're not seeing is I also have my iPhone done separately. So I don't use the audio from the iPhone, but when I first bring it in, it exists as well. So typically what I'll do, just so you can see the workflow that I use, is I'll bring in my iPhone footage. And of course the audio isn't going to be lined up because I start one ahead of the other one. Now there is a feature in DaVinci Resolve. So if I actually right click on this other one, it'll select those. And I can go up here. I can go auto align clips based on waveform. The problem is recently on this newest update, I'm working with a beta version, and on the newest update, it's not working. It just won't find it. Goes through the motions, but it doesn't work. So I'm having to line it up manually. And that's actually not as hard as it sounds. If I hold my Alt key down and scroll my wheel, this will zoom in on the timeline. Then I can grab that track and I can pull it over and until I get a kind of a match here. So you see I'm just lining it up like so. And I can move my playhead. And once I get it lined up, then we're golden. But what I can do if it's not lined up on the keyboard, you'll see you've got the period or the comma, and above those is the little greater than and less than signs. If you use those, you can shift the track one frame at a time. So if I just hit this one, you can see it just shifts one frame. So you can use that to really fine tune it. And then we'll just give it a quick test. Take a listen.
So I'm recording through OBS.
So you get that just very slight, kind of a tiny bit of a reverb in there, but it's so close. So if you turn one track on by itself, everything will still look synced to your movements of your lips. So I do this all the time. So this is how I bring in my kind of that narrator inset, or even if it's full screen, I still do the recording through the computer using OBS with my better microphone, because the sound coming off the iPhone isn't that great. Now once you've got everything lined up, use your control key, select your other tracks, and we're going to right click and we're going to go link clips. So now whenever one is selected, they all get selected. That way everything will stay lined up as you start removing other tracks. So I would just do a quick test to make sure everything lines up. So, you know, when I'm doing my normal production routine, I'll just mute the other tracks other than the one I really want to keep. And I'll just double check and make sure that the synchronization looks right.
So I'm recording through OBS.
So you can see it looks just fine. So then I would normally do that Alt select for the track I want to get rid of, and then hit my backspace to get rid of it. Don't hit your delete key, because that's a ripple delete and that'll cause you all kinds of issues. So the ripple delete is used in another way. Now if you're just an absolute raw beginner with DaVinci Resolve, I'll link a video up here in the cards that you can go watch, and it's designed specifically for newbies, for rookies. So I think that's really all I wanted to cover in this extra little section here. I just wanted to show you the basics of how to bring it in and what the multi-track stuff looks like and how to deal with it. Now when you actually render the video out, then it's going to combine it all into traditional single track. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're sure to catch our next video. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate you being here. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.